Rain hammered against the bus windows as Emma pressed her forehead against the cold glass, staring at the blurry city lights outside. Her entire life had collapsed in less than 3 weeks. First, the marketing company she worked for shut down without warning. Then her landlord sold the apartment building, giving every tenant only 10 days to leave. By the time Emma used the last of her savings for hotel rooms and storage fees, she had nowhere left to go. She hated the idea of returning to her mother's house. The last time she lived there was at 18, when she left for college carrying 2 suitcases and a promise to herself that she would never depend on her family again. But life had a cruel way of humbling people. Emma stepped off the bus with 1 suitcase and a backpack. Rain soaked through her hoodie as she walked toward the familiar suburban house with glowing kitchen windows. The same white porch swing still creaked softly in the wind. For a moment, memories flooded her mind: Christmas mornings, birthday cakes, bedtime stories. Maybe things would be different now. She knocked gently. The door swung open, and her younger sister Chloe appeared wearing silk pajamas and fuzzy slippers, holding a mug of hot chocolate. "Oh," Chloe said flatly, "you're actually here." Emma forced a smile. "Good to see you too." Before Chloe could answer, their mother Linda walked into the hallway. Her sharp eyes immediately scanned Emma's soaked clothes and suitcase. "You look terrible," Linda said. "Hi, Mom." Linda crossed her arms. "Come inside before you drip all over the porch." The warmth inside the house wrapped around Emma instantly. The smell of cinnamon candles and fresh pasta filled the air, making her stomach ache with hunger. She hadn't eaten since morning. Chloe returned to the couch while scrolling on her phone. Emma noticed the giant television, the shopping bags near the stairs, and the brand new furniture. Clearly, things were going well for her sister. Linda led Emma toward the laundry room near the garage. "You can sleep here," she said. Emma stopped walking. The room was tiny. Cleaning supplies lined one wall, and an old air mattress sat beside the washing machine. A single lamp flickered weakly in the corner. "You're joking, right? It's temporary," Linda replied coldly. "Unless you'd rather sleep outside." Emma swallowed the humiliation. "No, this is fine, thank you." Linda nodded once. "Good. Now we need to discuss rent." Emma blinked. "Rent, yes. $1,500 a month." The words hit harder than the rain outside. "For this," Emma whispered. Linda's expression didn't change. "You're an adult. Adults pay their way." Emma stared at her mother, waiting for a smile, some sign that this was a cruel joke. "None came. I just lost my job," Emma said carefully. "I'm trying to get back on my feet. And I'm not running a charity." From the living room, Chloe laughed at something on television while sipping hot chocolate. Emma looked toward the sound. "Chloe doesn't pay rent. That's different." Linda snapped instantly. "How?" "She's finishing graduate school." Emma almost laughed from disbelief. Chloe had been finishing graduate school for 3 years while spending most days shopping, posting selfies online, and going to brunch with friends. "I'll pay you back once I'm working again," Emma offered softly. "No," Linda said. "I want rent every month on time." Emma felt something crack quietly inside her chest. Not anger, not yet, just heartbreak. All her life she had worked harder, asked for less, and tried desperately to earn love that seemed to come naturally to Chloe. Straight A's, scholarships, part-time jobs. None of it had ever made her enough. Still, Emma nodded. "Okay," she whispered. That night, she lay awake on the squeaky air mattress, listening to the washing machine drip beside her. Upstairs, Chloe laughed loudly during a late-night phone call while their mother joined in. Emma pulled the thin blanket tighter around herself and stared into the darkness. For the first time in her life, she realized something painful. Her mother had not opened the door because she loved her. She had opened it because she saw an opportunity. Emma's alarm rang at 5:30 every morning. By 6, she was standing behind the counter of a crowded coffee shop downtown, forcing smiles at impatient customers while the smell of espresso clung to her clothes. After her shift ended, she rushed across town to work evenings at a small grocery store stocking shelves until nearly midnight. 2 jobs, 16-hour days, and somehow it still barely covered the $1,500 rent her mother demanded every month. Every payday, Emma placed the cash in an envelope and handed it directly to Linda, who counted every bill carefully without once saying thank you. Meanwhile, Chloe slept until noon. The unfairness slowly poisoned Emma from the inside. One Friday evening, exhausted and sore, Emma returned home carrying discount groceries she bought with her employee coupon. As she entered the kitchen, laughter echoed from the dining room. Linda and Chloe sat surrounded by shopping bags. Designer bags, expensive ones. Chloe held up a shiny red dress. "Mom, look how perfect this is for Miami." Emma froze. "Miami?" Chloe grinned smugly. "Girls' trip next month." Emma stared at the mountain of purchases. "How can you afford all this?" Linda answered before Chloe could speak. "That's none of your business." Emma set her grocery bags down harder than intended. "I'm working 2 jobs just to sleep beside a washing machine." "And whose fault is that?" Linda replied coldly. The words burned. Emma bit down on her anger and quietly walked toward the laundry room. Behind her, Chloe laughed softly and whispered something that made their mother chuckle. That night, Emma cried silently into her pillow for the first time in years, not because she was tired, not because she was broke, but because deep down she knew she was unwanted in the only place that was supposed to feel like home. The next morning, Linda knocked sharply on the laundry room door. "Get up. I need help organizing paperwork." Emma dragged herself out of bed after barely 4 hours of sleep. Linda sat at the kitchen table with stacks of unopened bills, bank statements, and folders spread everywhere. "You're good with this office stuff," Linda muttered. "Sort everything by date." For the next hour, Emma silently organized papers while Linda spoke on the phone nearby. Most documents were normal utility bills and insurance forms, until Emma opened a thick white envelope from a private bank. Her hands froze. Inside were statements showing large monthly transfers into Chloe's account. $5,000, $7,000, $10,000. Emma frowned in confusion. Chloe had no job, so where was the money coming from? Then she saw a familiar name on the account, Margaret Hastings, their grandmother. Emma's chest tightened instantly. 2 years ago, after their grandmother died, Linda had tearfully announced there was no inheritance left because medical expenses had drained everything. Emma remembered believing her without question, but these documents told a different story. Heart pounding, Emma quickly scanned more pages. Transfer after transfer, dozens of them, and then she found the final document, Inheritance Distribution Agreement. Emma's breath caught painfully in her throat. According to the papers, their grandmother had left equal amounts of money to both granddaughters. Equal, but Emma had never received a single dollar, not one. Suddenly, memories slammed together in her mind like shattered glass. Linda insisting there was nothing left. Chloe suddenly buying expensive clothes, luxury vacations, new furniture, designer handbags. Emma felt physically sick. Her own mother had stolen her inheritance and used it on Chloe. Find something interesting. Emma jerked her head upward. Linda stood in the doorway holding her coffee cup, her expression instantly hardening after noticing the papers in Emma's hands. The kitchen became deathly silent. "You lied to me," Emma whispered. Linda walked forward calmly and snatched the documents away. "You weren't supposed to see those. That money was mine." Linda rolled her eyes as if discussing something trivial. "You would have wasted it anyway." Emma stared at her in disbelief. "I was homeless," she said shakily. "I slept in my car for 3 nights before coming here. And now you have a roof over your head. A laundry room," Emma shouted. Upstairs, Chloe's footsteps echoed as she slowly descended the stairs, looking nervous. Emma looked between both of them. Years of pain suddenly made sense, the favoritism, the coldness, the constant humiliation. She had never been treated like family, only like someone convenient to use, and in that moment, something inside Emma finally changed. The heartbreak was still there, but now it was becoming something far more dangerous. Linda's birthday dinner was always treated like a major family event. Every year, relatives traveled across the city wearing fancy clothes, carrying expensive gifts, and praising Linda as if she were the perfect mother. Emma used to help organize the decorations and cook half the food herself. This year, however, she watched quietly from the kitchen corner, while Chloe handled everything like the beloved golden child she had always been. The house glowed with warm lights and fake happiness. Emma stood silently refilling drinks while relatives laughed around the dining table. Her Aunt Susan hugged Linda dramatically. "You raised such wonderful daughters," she said. Emma almost choked hearing the words. Linda smiled proudly. "I did my best." Across the room, Chloe caught Emma's eye and smirked slightly before returning to her conversation. For the past 2 weeks, Emma had barely spoken to either of them. She continued working both jobs, continued sleeping on the air mattress, and continued paying rent like nothing had happened. But secretly, she had been preparing. Every stolen inheritance document had been scanned, every bank statement copied, every rent payment photographed. Emma had spent nights organizing proof while her anger hardened into calm determination. Tonight was not about screaming, it was about exposure. Dinner continued with forced laughter and endless compliments directed at Linda. Emma listened quietly as relatives praised Chloe's hard work in graduate school and admired her designer jewelry. Nobody asked Emma how she was doing. Nobody noticed the dark circles under her eyes or the exhaustion written across her face. As dessert arrived, Linda lifted her wine glass. "I'm grateful for my family," she announced emotionally. "Especially my girls." Emma slowly stood from her chair. "I'd like to say something too." The room quieted immediately. Linda smiled tightly, of course. Emma picked up her laptop from the counter and walked toward the living room television. "What are you doing?" Chloe asked nervously. Emma connected the laptop with steady hands. Her heart pounded so hard she thought everyone might hear it, but her face remained calm. The television screen lit up. A bank statement appeared. The room fell silent. Linda's expression changed instantly. "Emma," she warned sharply, "I spent most of my life believing I wasn't good enough." Emma began quietly. "I thought maybe if I worked harder, became more responsible, or asked for less, eventually my own mother would love me equally." Nobody moved. Emma clicked to the next document, Inheritance Distribution Agreement. Gasps filled the room. Aunt Susan frowned. "What is this?" Emma kept her eyes on Linda. "This shows my grandmother left money to both Chloe and me before she died." Whispers erupted around the table. "But I never received my share," Emma continued, "because my mother stole it." "That's a lie," Linda snapped, standing abruptly. Emma clicked again. The screen filled with transfer records into Chloe's bank account. Thousands of dollars. Month after month, Chloe's face turned pale. Emma's uncle leaned forward in shock. "Linda, is this real?" Linda stammered. "It's complicated." "No," Emma interrupted calmly. "It's actually very simple." She pulled an envelope from her bag and held it up. "These are receipts for every rent payment I made while sleeping on an air mattress in the laundry room." The room exploded with disbelief. "You charged her rent," Aunt Susan whispered. $1,500 a month, Emma answered. Several relatives turned toward Linda with horrified expressions. Meanwhile, Chloe suddenly burst into tears. "You said she didn't need the money." Chloe cried at her mother. "You told me Grandma wanted me to have it." Linda's mouth opened, but no words came out. Emma watched silently as years of lies collapsed around them. For once, nobody defended Linda. Nobody praised Chloe. The perfect image was finally broken. Linda suddenly pointed at Emma with shaking fury. "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me." Emma laughed softly. The sound shocked even herself. "Repay you," she repeated. "I paid you to love me, Mom, and even that wasn't enough." Silence crushed the room. Linda's face twisted with humiliation as relatives avoided her eyes. Chloe sobbed quietly into her napkin. Emma looked around the table one final time. For years, she had been invisible in this family. Tonight, everyone finally saw the truth. And for the first time in her life, Emma no longer felt powerless. The house was silent after the guests left. Half-eaten birthday cake still sat on the dining table, while crumpled napkins and abandoned wine glasses covered the counters. Just hours earlier, the home had been full of laughter and celebration. Now it felt cold, exposed, and broken. Emma stood inside the laundry room, staring at the air mattress one last time. the same mattress where she cried herself to sleep after 16-hour workdays. The same mattress where she listened to her mother and sister laugh upstairs while treating her like a stranger. But tonight felt different. Tonight she wasn't leaving in shame. She was leaving free. Emma zipped up her suitcase slowly while muffled arguing echoed from upstairs. Chloe's voice sounded panicked. Linda's voice sounded furious. For once, their chaos was no longer Emma's problem. She lifted her suitcase and walked into the hallway. Linda immediately appeared at the top of the stairs, her face red from crying. "You embarrassed me," she hissed. Emma looked at her calmly. "No, Mom, you embarrassed yourself." Linda walked downstairs quickly. "You think you've won. I think I finally stopped losing." The words hit harder than shouting ever could. Behind Linda, Chloe stood silently with swollen eyes. Her expensive makeup had smeared down her face. For a brief second, Emma almost felt sorry for her sister. Chloe had spent years accepting stolen money and special treatment because it benefited her. But now the illusion protecting her was collapsing too. Emma reached into her bag and handed Linda a thick envelope. "What's this?" Linda asked suspiciously. "Open it." Linda pulled out several papers. Her expression slowly shifted from anger to shock. "Legal documents. A formal claim demanding repayment of Emma's stolen inheritance, along with every dollar of rent she had paid." "You're suing me," Linda whispered. Emma met her eyes steadily. "You stole from me." Linda laughed bitterly. "You would really destroy your own mother over money?" Emma's voice cracked slightly for the first time. "You destroyed your daughter over money?" Silence filled the hallway. Linda looked away first. Emma picked up her suitcase and moved toward the front door. Behind her, Chloe suddenly spoke in a trembling voice. "Emma, wait." Emma stopped but didn't turn around. "I didn't know everything," Chloe said quietly. "Mom told me you knew enough." Emma interrupted softly. Chloe began crying again. Emma opened the front door, feeling the cool night air brush against her face. For years she had dreamed about escaping this house. Yet now that the moment finally arrived, she didn't feel anger anymore. Only peace. 3 months later, Emma sat inside a small downtown apartment filled with sunlight and unopened moving boxes. It wasn't luxurious, but every inch of it belonged to her. Her lawsuit had forced Linda into a settlement after several relatives sided with Emma and threatened to testify in court. Most of the stolen inheritance had been recovered. Combined with money Emma saved from her jobs, it allowed her to finally restart her life. More importantly, she no longer carried the weight of begging for love from people unwilling to give it. Emma eventually started her own small online business, managing social media for local companies. The long hours finally felt worth something because she was building a future for herself instead of surviving someone else's cruelty. Meanwhile, family gossip spread quickly. Relatives stopped speaking to Linda after learning the full truth. Chloe eventually moved out once the money stopped flowing freely. Within months, Linda found herself completely alone inside the large house she once controlled so proudly. One rainy evening nearly a year later, Emma's phone buzzed with a message from Mom. "I miss you. Can we talk?" Emma stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she quietly locked the phone and set it aside. Outside her apartment window, the rain continued falling softly against the glass, just like the night she first arrived at her mother's house with nowhere to go. But this time was different. This time, Emma finally had something nobody could ever take from her again. Her peace.